All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get going in our work session. I will call this work session of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that all members of the council are present with the exception of Councilman Goolsby. Jonathan, you've got a quarterly goal update for us?
I do. Mayor, council members, if you'll look in your packets under the Vision 25 Q1, I've written some notes about each of these. Obviously, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But, I've tasked our public information manager, Emily Glasscock, to look at the citizen survey. So right now, she's prepared to have in Q1 a plan with a proposal from the company that did the citizen survey back in like 2018 for the city of Enterprise, so that you can have that before you. Administer the survey in Q2 or Q3, and then have the results in either Q3 or Q4, pending the budget and approval by the council that's the right solution for it. The Old Coppinville agreement, I have a meeting this Friday with the school superintendent that we have. I think we shifted that today to 8:30 in the morning. So hopefully I can have a fruitful discussion. I've talked to the mayor about that as well. So I think we have, at least we'll have a course of action to come back to the council with, or an ask from the school system. Draft on-street parking ordinance. City Attorney Ashley has a draft for that for the second meeting in February is our goal. Homeless issues briefing to the council, first meeting in March. Employee handbook approved by the council. I plan to introduce that at the next council meeting, the draft of that for your comments and review, hopefully with an introduction and then approval at the next first council meeting in March. Archive city council meetings. Again, Emily has looked into that. She's had a meeting with C Spire, and they claim that they are back on track with their streaming capabilities here. In addition to that, new SD cards have been purchased, and those are here now at the Civic Center. We've implemented a process. Emily and Blake have worked with Birgit to do that, where we have a sign-in sheet, so we have positive control of those SD cards. So there's two slots. Both of them will go in there, so if one fails, the other one will record it. And those are going to get signed out. If they leave Birgit's possession or leave the Civic Center, they get signed out. We know who signed them out. And then when they get returned, they're signed in. So for those of you that don't know, in the last few months, we've had SD cards go missing. Don't know why, but that's what has happened. So that when we went and we had a failure from C Spire, for instance, to stream, and we thought there was an SD card in the camera, there was not. So we think we've got a system in place as a backup to the streaming option from C Spire, and according to C Spire, those issues that they've had with timing, who's manning the feed, have been remedied. And so I guess time will tell on that. If not, we will pursue an alternate option on how to stream those live.
Regardless if the stream fails, we've now got redundant recording.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we've got a stream and we've got two physical media recording.
That's right. And like I said, in the past, we thought we had those in place, but we didn't have a good procedure in place to double check that the SD cards were in the system or in the camera, and wherever they went when they were taken out to be uploaded or replaced, nobody knew who had them. Sometimes it was person A, sometimes it was person B. So I think we've kind of nipped that in the bud. We've got a good. So I appreciate Blake and Emily and Birgit all working together to implement that. Quarterly update on customer experience for city services. This is something that Leanne and I plan to update at the second meeting in March. Land Bank Authority, first meeting scheduled for February the 19th. Quarterly nuisance property update, Thomas will continue to provide that, and Barry as needed. That plan is for the second meeting in March to do that, the first quarter update. Order our wayfinding signage. So again, that was a budgeted item. If you remember, we had two options: do it all in one lump sum. It was almost $600,000, or spread it out over 3 years. We recommended doing that over 3 years. I think it was 16 signs, maybe in tranche one. So that would be our plan, is to order those 16 signs. If you need us to send you out a refresher on where those signs would be located, but we plan to get those ordered here in the first quarter. And I do believe that Public Works, the plan was to do those in-house in terms of installing the signs once they were delivered. Open recreation center and outdoor pool. I know many of you, or hopefully all of you, have received a digital invitation for that, but it's open to the public 9 a.m. on Saturday, February 8th. So that's a pretty exciting moment for our community. I know that's been a lot of hard work from Blake, Barry Mott, really, the Parks and Rec and Public Works Department in general, just to get that place where it is today. We have been conducting basketball games. I know many of you have had an opportunity to go and observe that over the last month. And I mean, we've heard personally and from other staff members, I would say overwhelmingly positive feedback, which is very reassuring that the thoughtful design and efforts that were put in to make it what it was or what it is today are bearing some fruit. So that was really positive to hear. Municipal election, our plan, Beverly and I will brief that at the first council meeting in March. We've had some discussions with our probate judge, particularly on how we're going to pull the voting list. So as we get that, when we talked to Judge Thompson, that was on Friday. County was closed. So we plan to engage this week and hopefully get some answers on that, and then be ready to brief you on the plan first meeting in March. And that's our quarterly update.
All right. Any questions of Jonathan on our quarterly update? All right. We will move on to review the agenda of tonight's meeting. All right, so we'll begin with, of course, roll call, opening prayer, and pledge of allegiance, and the approval of the agenda. And then we've got the consent agenda. Stop me if you want to discuss any of this. I'm just going to read it all out. We've got some minutes of work sessions from January 7th and 21st, council meeting minutes on the 21st. Got accounts payable from the water department and the city, total of $936,000. Then we got contract billings to CC and Litchfield and Poly Incorporated. Those are for the Recreation and Aquatic Center and the Enterprise Commerce Park, respectively. Then travel requests from the police department. And then we'll move on to mayoral recognition for Ann Bridgette. Did I say that name right? Did I say her last name right? Ann Bridgette. Mayoral recognition for Brookwood Elementary School, mayoral recognition for the ESCC volleyball team, and then a permit request from Erin Grantham. She's not here now. She is here. Erin, you want to talk about this now or in the regular meeting? It's up to you. You want to hang around another hour, or you want to get it over with now? It's up to you. Come on. Completely up to you. I didn't know whether you wanted to do it in the regular meeting or not.
I feel like everybody can hear me anyway.
We can hear you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I am here once again to ask for permissions to temporarily close the streets downtown for the World's Smallest St. Patrick's Day Parade and the half K, 0.5K, which we have on our schedule for Saturday, March the 15th, 2025. Public event hours about 11:30 to 2-ish. I've already sent the information over to Chief Moore and Captain Kent. Everything is pretty much the same as it has been over the last 5 years or so. So there's no changes or modifications. So pending any questions that you might have, that is the request from me.
You good, Chief? All right, any questions? Everybody good? All right, that's all we got here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then we'll move on to privilege of the floor and staff reports, old business. We've got a public hearing for the Boatwright Company LLC rezone. Scotty, anything we need to know with that?
No, it was pretty normal.
Staff, any comments on, we're good? All right. Then we've got a public hearing on ST Properties rezone. Scotty, we good there?
Yes, sir.
Staff, nothing we need to know on that? All right, then we've got to amend the zoning ordinance. Why don't y'all just refresh our memory on that?
Good evening. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but last year we went in and amended our ordinances about how far a person could serve alcohol from a church or the YMCA. And so we have that in what I refer to as the top part of the ordinances, but when we went through the zoning ordinance, there was also language in that as well. So what we wanted to do is to make sure the language in the zoning ordinance matched what we had already put in our previous ordinance, so it would all be consistent. The distance was not changed by any means. It's the same distance, so it's the exact same thing that you guys adopted last year, and the distance was also in that previously. So that part did not change.
Right, and this just, if I remember right, it just clearly defined where those distances were being measured from.
Yes, it was clearly defined when we did that last year. And again, we just wanted the zoning ordinance to match the language that's in more of our traditional municipal code.
Got it. Any questions on that? Everybody good? All right, thank you, Ash. Next is to establish the salary of the mayor. Jonathan, why don't you just refresh our memory, make sure everybody's on the same page? I know Greg wasn't here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so as we discussed at the last council meeting, you know, we did a canvas. It was actually fairly easy. The League of Municipalities had put together sort of a canvassing of what different cities, councils and mayors were making, as well as what benefits they were being offered. And so in reviewing that, we also called City of Troy, Ozark, Dothan to get that. And that was sort of the first step that we took. And then somebody said, well, you know, the league's got this information. And I said, no, I didn't. And it was very helpful to have that, because then it became, instead of just having to call every municipality, all of a sudden I had a document that had, you know, 60, 70 municipalities at my fingertips. And they kind of codified that by under 12,000, between, you know, 12,000 and 50,000 and 50,000 plus, in terms of what those salaries and other benefits were. So it ranged, but when you look at our proximity with places like Ozark and Troy, the mayor's position in the city of Enterprise hadn't been changed since 2008. Those respective communities, as an example, their mayors were making about $7,000 to $10,000 more than the mayor of the city of Enterprise, even though that their populations and budgets were significantly lower in most instances. So we looked at you know, larger cities, obviously, as well, like Mobile and Huntsville, Opelika, Prattville. Our mayoral salary for the city of Enterprise was in the bottom quartile for peer cities. When you look at the city council pay, though, our city council, fairly unique, that we offer health care benefits for our city council members. That was not the case. Most municipalities require the city council to pay for those health care benefits. So, and then the pay stacked up pretty evenly, maybe slightly on the higher side for the monthly pay for the city council. But the big kicker there was the benefits. So if you keep the benefits where they are, the recommendation was not to make any changes to the city council pay or benefit structure, but to increase the mayor's salary by approximately $10,000, which I think would put it around $57,000.
Right, we're currently at 47.5, and this is 57,000, and that was last changed in 2008.
That's correct.
So we've gone about, what was that, 17 years without an increase?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just a refresher, a sitting council cannot increase or cannot change the compensation of a mayor or a current council. It's got to be done for the next term, at least 6 months before the next election.
At least 6 months prior, so that's correct. So this would not impact Mayor Cooper's salary. It would not impact, if you were approving a potential increase for the city council tonight.
Yeah.
It would not take effect until after the next election.
Yeah. Until the next council and mayor are sat, which would be November,
Yes,
first
sir.
meeting in November, I guess.
That's correct.
Or November 1st, something like that. Okay. Yeah, so the idea there is that we can't sneak this in at the 11th hour. You got to do it well ahead of the election. It gets vetted by the voters during the election.
That's right.
So,
Essentially, if you don't take action on this today, it would go another 4 years
Right.
before it could be acted upon again.
this is, got it. And we introduced this 2 weeks ago.
We did. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Everybody comfortable with this still? All right. Next item is to set certain department heads and employee hiring.
Yes, sir. So again, this was introduced, I think, 2 weeks ago. In general, we've talked about the framework of this. Most of our department heads, it has been a hodgepodge, and I don't know exactly when they all changed, but before I came on board, there's only 4 department heads or positions within the city that are statutory appointments by the city council. Those are the city clerk, police and fire chief, and city treasurer. So outside of that, we still have the council action. I know many of you have been involved in hiring actions for, my position or our CFO, Parks and Recreation. Prior to that, of course, Billy was there for 28 and a half years, so there wasn't a lot of need for that. But those positions, Public Works and Engineering, Main Street, Tourism, Human Resources, all of those were some level of involvement by the council. So one, that didn't put us on a merit system. Anytime that there was a proposal to change a department head or one of those positions I just mentioned's salary, it would come before the council, and you would consider that. And it's not; those are unique in what we don't do for any other employee in the city on the merit system. So in other words, if there's a proposed raise or somebody gets a performance evaluation and they did well, they could get a salary increase if it was warranted. The other thing that it had to do with was pay banding. So a lot of times in years past, department heads would go 4 years, 8 years in some instances or longer without ever receiving a pay increase because the city council had to vote on it. And so, this, I think in recent months, certainly we have seen some of our department heads get courted by other communities. I think Billy Powell is a great example of that. So I tried to look at what those other communities do. And so when we talk about hiring or replacing a department head, when a vacancy comes up, most of them are in pay band structures where they have a wide pay band that the job could fit into. And it would be determined based on years of experience or other qualifying factors about how they fell into that pay band. And so I think that is a better way for us to hire when we're talking about these professional. And even in our, daily operations, a lot of times we do that with our other merit employees, is we hire based on a pay band, so to speak, of when people can come in. So we've talked about that on the police side. CDL drivers, if they have 5 years of experience, we don't have to start them out at step one. Police officers, we called it lateral transfer when we talked about that, but if they're of a certain rank in another department in another community, why would we need to bring them in and start them in at rate one or step one on our pay band? So this would clarify that, have a kind of a set all other positions that are not merit-based to be appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the council still, but all of those merit actions would be done based on availability of funds in the budget that would be approved by the council.
All right, yep. I think that's the second or third time we've had that explained to us, so hopefully everybody understands that now. Any questions? All right, next item is ABC license requests for the Butcher's Daughter Deli and Market, then ABC license request for Magnolia Gaming, and then new business is review and consider grant funds for the Public Building Authority.
So Mayor, council members, there's a $350,000 additional funding that we're requesting to grant the Public Building Authority over what was previously done, which I think was $8.2 million. $8.2 million. So the reason for that is we have had several things that weren't in the original bid that came up. Some of those include like an auxiliary structure where the police are currently washing cars and vehicles behind City Hall. I don't know if you've driven by that, but it's a metal shack. We believe that it would be prudent to demo that in keeping with the facelift that City Hall is about to get and the renovations. Like it doesn't fit. It's not a great place. Chief Moore, I think, also agrees that there may be other places that we could do that in the city already, like at our Public Works Department. We look at things like, do we resurface the parking lot? So we've had to make a few cuts in the parking lot to run services out there. That wasn't contemplated in the bid. So this would allow us to accomplish, a lot of those tasks that were kind of not contemplated in the original bid. But as we look, we say, well, we've spent $8.2 million building this nice new facility, but we've got one or two things here and there that we find that we need to spend money on to make it fit in with the rest of City Hall. You have something? Yeah.
I just want to let you know that, just to remind you that the contract actually is with the Public Building Authority and the contractor. So the item you have on the agenda tonight is basically is contingent upon the building authority, signing that change order with the contract, but basically putting that money into this project for us to do these things that come up on this project. And I also want to remind you that the contract that we have with the contractor is based upon a cost plus. So we negotiated an overhead rate and a defined profit for this project. So it's a good deal for the city. It's a good deal for the contractor. It took a lot of the questions out early on and it able to save us well over $1 million from the original bid that came in on this project. So we're able to do a whole lot more money, a whole lot more project for the same amount of money. So this is a way for us to lock in a contractor at a true cost plus an overhead and profit. So adding this money to the budget will allow us to get some other things done while we have a contractor mobilized and on site. And so one of the things that we do is we've got a meeting set up within the next 30 days. The cap is at $8.2 million, and that's based upon, like I said, the true cost of the project plus a 4% overhead and a 7% profit on the project. So that is a not to exceed amount, $8.2 million. So whatever the contractor truly spends on the project, that number, if it comes down, we pay less of that. And there's a clawback in the contract that says that we will give a portion of the savings back to the contractor, but that number is significantly less. I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was 20% of the savings goes to the contractor, 80% of the savings comes back to us. So it's in the contractor's best interest to save us money because they get a better return on saving us money and not doing the work instead of just running the contract all the way to the maximum extent that they have at $8.2 million. So that number, $8.2 million, can come down. There's no guarantee that it will, but we will do everything we can to keep that number within check.
All right, any questions from Barry or Jonathan on this? Okay. Next item is set salaries of certain department heads. So this is a companion to the earlier.
It is. I think the other one was an ordinance that was introduced. This is an accompanying resolution that set those pay bands.
Yeah, so these are just the bands, the ranges of which we could set.
That's correct. And again, this goes back to something we talked about at our strategic planning meeting. You know, you talk about performance evaluations and how we do that. I don't think in the history of enterprise, and you know, we have a lot of department heads that have been here longer than me, but I would encourage any of them that have received a performance evaluation to raise their hand. That system, because of the way it's set up in the past, just it doesn't exist. So I think this would give us an opportunity to do that.
All right. Any other questions on that? Okay. Amend the employee classification plan payroll for an account specialist.
Yeah. So again, this is a change we talked about, you know, in our strategic planning, and we look at the organizational chart every year. What could we do better? So one of the things that happened after our last HR director left is we realized that we were pretty thin on who could do payroll in the city, razor thin, like one person. And that was because some other turnover in HR as well. Since that time, Leanne and her staff in both revenue and the accounting office have done a good job of learning how to do payroll. But we think the organizational change that is in a lot of cities is that if we truly look at what the HR director needs to be focused on for the city of Enterprise, payroll, which is a very time-consuming activity. There's also a lot of reporting that has to go on with financials, RSA, W-2s, ACA reporting. All those things have overlap with the finance and accounting office. And so we think that it would be better to create a position in finance. Conversely, when we did our HR audit, we also heard about how HR might need another person in it based on the volume of work. Part of that volume of work was that HR was having to spend, you know, basically a day and a half every 2 weeks just on payroll, sometimes 2 days. So, you know, this would create another position, but it would move the duties of payroll to have into the finance office where they can have overlap with, like I said, the revenue and other team members that are currently there to assist with payroll and free up time so that we don't need a fourth person in the HR department. We'll still maintain with 3, but they'll be able to focus more on, you know, typical HR issues, whether that is, you know, employee surveys, you know, investigations into any, you know, misconduct or things that are going on, advertising, onboarding, performance evaluations, those kind of things.
All right, any questions about this, the addition of this payroll and accounts specialist? All right, next item is the Harris Security Systems for City Hall.
Yes, sir. This is part of the City Hall renovations where we have a new we'll have a new fire alarm security system on City Hall. So this is a contract to make sure that the City Hall is covered moving forward.
Any questions? All right, then we got a Parks and Rec Toro sprayer. I believe this is a budgeted item for Parks and Rec.
Yes, sir. Good evening, council. This is a budgeted item. This is basically with the increase of property This helps us maximize our ground coverage with the sprayer, spraying chemicals, fertilizer, that such.
All right, any questions of Mr. Moore on that? All right, next items are police department vehicles. Chief? We've got one half-ton 4x4, two half-ton 4x2s, and one police pursuit sport utility.
Yes, sir. Budgeted items, as always, do a local bid, but those are vehicles that we need for criminal investigations and the patrol.
All right, so these are going to go out to bid. And,
Yes, sir.
all right, any question? All right, next item is mitigation services blight elimination program.
Yes, sir. So in the past, I got permission from the council to go to bid for demolition of structures that we had in the blight elimination program. One thing that I did not ask particular permission for, and I just want to make sure it was clear, we are getting in some situations where we have been using Public Works crews to do grass cutting, trimming, edging for obnoxious weeds. So I wanted to go ask permission from you to go seek bids for that service in the event that as we move forward in this program, we cannot cover that under our normal Public Works crews and what they've got doing. So I wanted to make sure that I had your permission to seek bids for that service.
So can you break this down into like a unit cost bid, or is this going to be specific projects bidding out?
My initial thoughts are going to be to determine maybe 3 different characteristics of different types or sizes of facilities or houses and ask them to give us a cost on that. And if we see that it doesn't meet one of those 3, if it's a special case, then we'll basically bid those separate. But I'm trying to find a generic way of classifying this that I don't have to keep going out for bids as we get additional houses or buildings into this program. So my thoughts were, half an acre type lot, from here, half an acre to 3/4 of an acre, 3/4 of an acre to an acre, something like that, where we have size or complexity to each one and determine what that is. I've got a little bit of work to do before I can put this on the street, but I just want to go ahead and get permission from you to go ahead and do that. And of course, when I get the bids, I'll bring them back to you for a recommendation to award.
All right, any questions on that? Okay. Next item, looks like the mayor's going to read a letter of resignation from the HR director, and then we will recess into the E911 board meeting and go, we'll convene in the E911 board meeting, which just consists of approving the minutes and accounts payable of $4,700. Anything we need to know about those accounts payables?
No, sir. Ms. Hill is sick. She had to stay home. But it's just accounts payable, which is
Yeah.
a normal function of E911 board.
Yeah, if y'all did, I don't think it was in the packet, but I reviewed these when I got here. They're in your E911 board meeting packet here. They're short and looks to be consistent with previous months. Then we'll reconvene in regular session and go to mayor's report and adjourn. Is everybody good with the agenda as presented? No changes, additions, deletions? All right, we will go forward with that agenda at 6 o'clock. Back to our work session. All right, we've got Jonathan, did we want to discuss the?
We did.
Okay.
I know what you're going to say. I think you're going to refer to a request by the chamber.
Yes, that's correct.
For the Christmas
Yeah,
parade.
we've got about 6 minutes of time to discuss that.
Yeah, I think, so basically, we had a request by the Christmas Parade Committee from the Chamber of Commerce to flip-flop the Christmas tree lighting and the Christmas parade dates. I know Councilman Johnson, you were involved in a lot of those meetings.
Yes, I was.
So what I told Councilman Johnson, if depending on, I mean, there's really no council action that needs to happen other than that Tuesday, it is on a city council meeting date. So there would have to be discussion if you wanted to move the city council meeting to a different time that day or change the date or whatever, and that's in December.
But that would just be changing it on account of the Christmas tree lighting instead of changing it on account of the parade, right?
Correct.
True.
Yeah, so regardless, the meeting would probably be at noon on that day.
That's correct.
Okay.
So but what I didn't know is how the council felt, how Councilman Johnson's colleagues felt about that, decision. There has been some controversy in the past between different business owners and types of businesses about who wants it on which day. All that to be said, a committee met, they made a recommendation to do it. You could look at it as, if it doesn't work out, we can go back the next year. It won't cost anything extra for the city, so there's no monetary impact. So I guess I just wanted to get some feedback from all of you about if you want the mayor's office to handle that kind of administratively and how, or if you were just dead set against, flip-flopping the Christmas parade and tree lighting.
Scotty, did you have any comments?
Well, I say I'm a big proponent for it over the years, and I've been working the backfield for probably 13, 14 years. And we always hear about school nights and stuff. And then I asked, well, Thursday's a school night. And they said, well, Friday, we don't do a lot in school. And so it's a better night. And the committee, we what-if this forever at the last couple of meetings. And we're meeting once a month up until the annual parade comes in. And went through this, and everybody was in agreement that would be a great time to do it, to have the tree lighting kick off the week there at the farmers market, and then have the parade on that Thursday. And like Mr. Townsend said, we would have gone earlier if the council meeting was on Tuesday. We would have had a meeting at noon like we did this last time. So
Right.
that won't affect any of that. But I'm a big proponent for going ahead and do it, especially from all the comments I've had, and with the committee too.
Greg, you have any thoughts as a? Yeah. Okay. All right, you're not asking for action tonight, we're just getting it on our radar.
Yes, sir. And I think that what the chamber wants is to just get that pulse and move forward or not. So our contract with the chamber is pretty broad about what their scope and responsibilities are. It basically says that they're to, can arrange the Christmas parade and provide a float in that parade.
Yeah.
And plus, you said that it was really, the staff could do it, not come to the council.
That's right. It's really just a matter of if nobody has an issue with it, then,
Yeah.
we can tell the chamber to go ahead and do it. There'll be a flip-flop on the dates of the street closure,
Right.
which would come back before you. Outside of that, no other council action would be needed. It'd just be internal about which days we close the streets.
Yeah. Okay, well, it doesn't sound like there's any heartburn up here, so I guess we can move forward with that. We've got a request to go into executive session regarding good name and character and some real estate matters from our city attorney. Anything else? Those two issues, so I'll entertain a motion for that.
I make a motion, we move into executive session for good name and character real estate.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will be in executive session for approximately 15 minutes, returning back out here. No further discussion in work session, but we will adjourn the work session and convene in our normal meeting at 6 o'clock. So we'll be back in a few minutes.